So now we have this call center specific product, which does noise cancellation, accent conversion, voice translation, like agent assist, and other kind of things.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Slator Pod. Today on the podcast, we welcome Davit Baghdasaryan. So David is the co-founder and CEO of Krisp.ai, Krisp with a K, a leader in voice productivity. And so I'm really excited to have David on the pod today so we can explore a platform where language is at the heart, but it's not originating from the translation or localization space originally. So without further ado, hi, David, and thanks so much for joining.
Thanks so much, Florian. It's great to be here.
We always ask people where in the world they're recording this from. Are you in California today?
No, I'm actually in Armenia right now, in Yerevan.
Okay, so that's where much of the company's based.
Where our engineering is based, yeah. So research and engineering. So this is where we create our AI models, also productize them. And our go-to-market team is in US. So like I split my time between San Francisco and Yerevan.
All right. So that was already a little bit of background. Give us more background. So you were with Twilio, I think maybe all the way up to IPO, and then tell us a bit more about that, the idea of Krisp, how it came together, how kind of went from an executive role at Twilio to entrepreneur.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my background is software engineering. So I love technology. I love building technology. And at some point in my career, I got into security engineering. So I have a lot of background in product security as well. And that was my role at Twilio. I was the head of product security for all products at Twilio. So, and that's how I got into communications at Twilio. We went for IPO with them. I love Twilio. It's a great company. And then in 2017, I left Twilio and started Krisp with my co-founder Arto. And the idea was to create noise cancellation technology that is entirely based on software and AI. Back then, it was embarrassing to call it AI. We were calling it machine learning. But yeah, I mean, very early, like really, in for the audio, in intersection of audio, right? Digital signal processing and AI. So yeah, like we started with that idea in mind, like why not, why can't there be noise cancellation technology like that you click a button and removes all the background noise and gives you some privacy. It was like my personal sort of desire to have that. Uh, and Arto, my co-founder, really liked the idea. He holds a PhD in math and in particular like digital signal processing. So we started working on that, and nobody would believe in like this approach, especially because our team didn't have like experience in like audio engineering, and all the audio like people who had the experience, they would be like, yeah, I mean, you cannot apply AI here, you cannot apply machine learning. And we didn't know that. Like we like I keep joking about this. Like if we had more experience in audio, we probably would be, too afraid to take this, journey. But and not knowing actually helped us a lot.
Got it. So just for the listeners, clarify, this is live we're talking about. This is not recorded. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's like real time
Real time. Yeah.
noise cancellation in calls, like
Yeah.
like Zoom calls in any other call, right? And
Got
that
it.
was
Got
like
it.
there are a lot of difficulties, complexity, because when it's real time and it's also processed on device rather than in the cloud, because of the latency, you cannot do it in the cloud. So like we had a lot of constraints, like we needed to do this on CPU with like all these compute constraints. And also the other complexity is that every time you want to deal with audio, like people are very sensitive. Our ears are very sensitive to any artifact produced in the audio. So like even if you like remove the noise, but you leave some artifacts, people are gonna notice it and they're gonna hate it and they're not gonna use your product. So a lot of technical challenges to overcome.
So how do you even get to like an MVP if there's all these kind of devil in the detail problems?
It's a very interesting story actually. Like first our idea was to license this technology to like Zooms and Twilios of the world. And we started talking to them, and there was some interest, but voice is such a sort of critical infrastructure. Nobody wants to touch it. So like the pace it was going with wasn't like wouldn't fit the startup mindset. Like our
Yeah.
startup would just die. And then like we were talking to people, like everyone would get very excited, like, yeah, I would like to have this on my machine and so on. So we ended up like really inventing this category of like virtual mics based products. I mean, there were some tools based on virtual mics, but like we ours is like really actual product that we ended up selling to a lot of companies and so on. So we created this user facing B2C app which had noise canceling capability in it, and because it's a virtual microphone, you can use it from any video or voice application, right? Like Zoom, Google Meet, anything else. And so we ended up doing that, and it was a great idea. First, it was a marketing idea, right? Like we were like, okay, but we'll get it into the hands of all the folks at Zoom and others, and it will create demand. And it worked like that because the moment we launched it, just next day I started getting like inquiries. But there were so many inquiries that we thought, okay, maybe there is an application business here and like a dedicated product business. So that was like 7 years ago.
It's been a long time since then. And so when I did the intro before, I introduced Krisp as a leader in voice productivity. So I think this is a category you're kind of helping to create and define. So tell us more about like the attempt of defining your own category. Obviously that's great for any tech company, right? And how you see that particular space, voice productivity, how you see it for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, if you think about noise cancellation, it improves our productivity, right? The alternative to having Crisp is to go like find a room that might not be there, right? So it just allows you to do your calls without like from anywhere, like really. So that improves the productivity. And then like we started working on accent conversion technology, which again is real time. So in real time, it converts one accent to like the speaker's accent to the listener accent for better comprehension. Obviously, accent is a barrier. A lot of like millions of people actually struggle because of it, and they don't understand each other or they're not understood. And if technology with one click can solve it, it's magic, right? And then like it was always in our vision that we will move to like voice translation as well. So like and language barrier being the bigger problem. So all of these are productivity problems, right? Because like all our products are created for like business or for work and everyday work. So and we sort of call that umbrella category as voice productivity. I think like we're gonna even expand the umbrella to voice productivity and automation because there is so much automation happening as well with AI, right? But right now it's like I would say it's all productivity. So we have products that do note taking, like we have an amazing note taker, product. So like pretty much everything we do is in real time voice.
I want to talk a bit about the integrations and then come back to the accent translation and the whole language and speech translation component. But first, yeah, I think I heard you say on another podcast that you're integrated with things like Twilio, of course. You probably know the folks over there, but also Ring Central, which is what we're using for our remote conferences over at Slater. But you're probably integrated into the other part of the Ring Central business, maybe the call center side, or tell us more about that. And how does that work? Like what type of integrations would that be?
Yeah, absolutely. So look, we have two products. One is a desktop application that is a virtual mic and virtual speaker. From out of the box, it integrates with any voice or video app that allows you to select microphone, right? So you just go. I'm using actually Chris right now with Riverside, right? So you can go and like just click Chris microphone, Chris speaker, and that's it. Like, and then you can have all these features, which is magic, right? So with Chris, you basically provide or bring support of this amazing technology to any platform, right? So that's like that's the key product. But we also have an SDK product where we basically embed our SDK inside other products, right? Like Twilio, like Vonage, like Ring Central, and 50 others. Okay, like Discord is the most popular that we power entirely. Discord was our very first actually large customer. So so we have these two business lines, and one interesting fact actually, like when we started the company, the only use case we had in mind was like human to human conversations, right? Like remove background noise in human to human conversations. But a new use case just came in a year ago, which is human to AI. And like it's not very intuitive to think about this, but when there is a lot of background noise and voice coming from human to AI, so when you're using like voice mod or you're talking to a voice AI agents, this noise and this background voice like really messes the AI up, right?
I know.
And it messes the turn taking. So the AI starts to interrupt you. It thinks like the background voice was you, and like it thinks you're gonna say something, so that whole conversation breaks off. And Krisp is the bigger supplier of the technology that does this voice isolation for AI systems now. Like the most major like AI labs are using Krisp for their voice mods, and like the biggest startups that like we are basically processing billion minute per month uh, in that regard, right? So it's perhaps it's if not the biggest, but one of the biggest sort of supplier of technology to voice AI agents today, because it's such a core infrastructure piece for them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't even think of this. I mean, I only came across this problem in a consulting project at some point where I think the like an AI interpreting project where yeah, like it would try to, translate like bark or like dog barking in the background, something. It would just throw the AI off completely. But that's still kind of B2B-ish. But in your case, you're talking about literally everybody interacting with
Yeah.
voice with AI. So
B2C and
yeah,
B2B actually.
yeah.
Yeah, the bigger problem is called turn taking. Turn taking is very hard for AI to do, and if you like throw background noise or voice in there, it's just like completely breaks. And like we solved that.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I do want to talk about, I mean, AI. You started in 2017. That was kind of a couple years after neural nets became useful, at least in the translation world. And then there was a bit of a, like maybe half a decade of like playing around with this in the translation where it was a big thing, but it was somewhat incremental. And then obviously ChatGPT moment, LLMs. So what did LLMs change for you and what did they not change, like in the trajectory of Crisp?
When we started, like it was way more difficult to build AI models, obviously, because the tooling wasn't there, the compute wasn't there. You know, like just the state of art was very different than like before LLMs, right? So and we were always focused on real time voice with all the constraints, like on device, right? So that is it's still like very different than LLMs. But I think like what changed after LLMs is that we have incorporated a lot of Gen AI technology inside Cruise, right? Like what one example is we do like call summary generation, key points generation, or action item generation. It was just impossible to do before LLMs, right? And so that's like one huge improvement. But also like in our product suite, like we have things such as chat, like for call center agents, they can chat with the knowledge, which knowledge base, um, and and then like we have systems where in real time the AI suggests, like guides the agent, like things like that, like those is pretty much like impossible to build without LLMs. I mean, LLMs are not perfect, but just before LLMs, it was like very limited. Yeah, and I would imagine that LLMs are not imagine. I'm very convinced that LLMs are already and will going forward will play like a major role in translation as well. Like there's a lot of evidence that LLM based translation is superior than the translation models themselves.
Definitely. I mean, I think the industry has moved very aggressively over the LLMs, and it's has its impact on just from availability of translation to obviously quality. Let's talk about one aspect I find fascinating: this accent conversion, accent localization. Um, so when did you notice this was possible? Was it like an idea you had and then you found the tech? Was it like you kind of had the tech and like, oh, we could probably do this, right? That's question number one. Question number two, like, who needs this? How does it help? What are the type of customers for this?
No, we did not have the tech. Look, but in our very first like pitch, and we were part of like Berkeley Skydeck Accelerator, and in that pitch, that was like 2017 or 18. Back then, like we had this part of the pitch, like we were saying, like accent would be the next thing that we will tackle after noise cancellation, right? So it was part of the vision. But it turned out that accent conversion, real-time accent conversion, is a very difficult problem, right? So we spent like the last 3 years building it. Maybe like more difficult than noise cancellation. It's hard to compare these things, but yeah, like I'm super proud that like right now we have the best, like number one technology in its in terms of its like quality, naturalness, latency, and other characteristics, right? So the primary use case for it is call centers today, right? So like offshore call centers, like if you're a call center agent, you need to go through like a lot of trainings today to sort of adjust your accent to the target market, and that's a very tough training. And I don't even imagine how you can adjust your accent, like how much mental pressure that is. Like, I mean, that work is already like very stressful. So now you need to like sort of pretend other accent. That's and they have to go, and call centers actually spend a lot of money on that, right? So like imagine if you can just give that choice to the agents, and like with a click of a button you can like just do that for them using AI. It's miracle, right? So that's what we are going through right now. So this technology is being deployed to tens of thousand agents globally, like in India, Philippines, Latin America, South Africa, and so on. And like so that barrier, the accent of barrier, and in terms of like why it's important is because it's just a comprehension problem, right? A lot of people don't understand other accents, and in these customer calls, that's like a real like metric, right? The average handling time and CSAT and other metrics are very important, so it impacts all these metrics. And if you have a button that eliminates it, so it's like okay, that's a no-brainer, right?
Does it also like do linguistic fixes, small fixes, or would it like? I mean, I have a Germanic accent, German accent, right? So would it? And if I make an error, like a grammatical or syntax error, would it basically would it change that a little bit as well, tweak it as well, or would it just make me sound like a Texan with some minor grammar issues?
Yeah, so it's really hard to do grammar fixes because you would need to add more latency to it.
Yeah,
At least like in the current form of the state of art, like it doesn't. Like its goal is to adjust the accent, right?
got it.
So yeah, and again, like it turned out to be like really difficult problem, but maybe like the next sort of stage of it is to try to fix grammatical errors as well. Although I would imagine that would be like a really difficult thing to do.
Another difficult thing is kind of live speech AI translation. So what's different between accent localization and language conversion, right? Live speech, I don't know, for lack of a better term, AI interpreting in that sense.
Oh, very, very difficult, very, very different technologies, right? So in a very high level, like the accent conversion, like the most of the technologies that have been successful, they do like speech to speech, like speech to phoneme and then phoneme to speech, right? Uh, Real time conversion, and so that's like very, very different. So like you need very small, tiny latencies, right? Usually it's difficult to go, below 200 millisecond or 150 millisecond. And in case of this, I call it voice translation or AI voice translation. That's usually you are within 2 seconds. Okay, so that's like one major difference. The other difference is that in voice translation, you typically I haven't actually seen any other way of doing it, but typically voice to text and then text translation and then text to speech, right? So
Yeah.
there is a pipeline which is very different technologically than the accent conversion.
Yeah, you have the sequence, and then there's again like the various approaches here, but the latency is key. Now, what about Armenian, for example, as a language? Like, are you finding Armenian is probably one of the lower resource languages,
Yeah.
right? So I guess you're finding it easier with much higher resource languages, and as you kind of go down, it gets a little harder. But I guess in your B2B use case, you mostly deal with very high language resource combinations.
Absolutely, yes. So the high resource languages, it's easier because again, like if you look from pipeline perspective, it's speech to text. First, it's speech to text, and you need to have like really high quality speech to text, and that's only available for high resource languages today. And then you need to do translation. So most of the traditional sort of translation models, they are limited in like number of languages and they support. But LLMs are pretty good actually. Like if you were to translate like English text to Armenian, like LLMs are doing like an amazing job there. Um, but then like you need to have text to speech, which again, like usually is available for high resource languages. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's obviously yes. So there are two use cases. One is like the how do we support the long tail sort of languages in the for the customer communications. But the majority of the use case, like the traffic, is more like okay, like English, Spanish, French, German, Japanese, Chinese, sort of like the bigger languages.
Maybe I'd give you another idea for a very seemingly kind of long tail, but might actually be some decent business potential. Would be in Swiss German, which is my native language. So it kind of sits between an accent and a language. So it would kind of fit right in between accent localization and kind of AI speech translation, and very hard for call centers because actually people would feel much more um, comfortable, or I don't know, it would be a very different feel if you call a call center, you get somebody to speak Swiss German rather than like kind of German. And so if that's something you could eventually solve, I think that would be a pretty big business case with all the Swiss insurance companies and banks and all these guys.
Yeah, like it's very interesting. So I think it would be like more voice translation rather than accent. But see, like I find it fascinating. Like from the accent conversion perspective, there are certain countries that just within those countries, the accent is so diverse, right? Like in India, like US, and pretty much like any large country has this issue. And so within those countries, there's a lot of, and you need to have specific models unless you crack like create this universal accent converter, which I think is actually the goal we have. That you can choose any, or automatically it will do the accent conversion. The same for translation as well. But anyway, so like it's very difficult, diverse, sort of geographically diverse problem, and we like difficult problems at Krisp, so we're excited about it.
Looks like it, because there's a lot of other companies that are competing in this speech translation world. So how do you compete against the specialists who kind of have this as their sole use case, or the big tech companies, right? We just had Apple come out with, I think, an on-device. The demo looked not super impressive, but I mean, it's Apple, right? And then you had OpenAI, you had,
Yeah,
I'm sure, Google also for Google Meet. So, for you, this is not
yeah,
your sole product. So how do you compete with that?
yeah. We have three things that we sort of part of our strategy, right? Like one is first of all, like noise cancellation and accent conversion are in-house technologies, right? So we have IP, we have patents around them, and we are pretty good at that. I
Yeah.
don't think there is anyone else that is better than Krisp today. But then like we have a lot of other technologies within our platform. So like one is that look, we want to build a platform. Okay, we want to have we want to give we want to have like all-in-one software that people can do for voice productivity. So that's so like if you have iPhone, it will cover certain use cases, but not for the call center case, right? In the call center, we have big presence, so this all-in-one platform makes a lot of sense, we think, right? So that's like one. The second is because Krisp is a virtual microphone, it can work with anything, right? And that's the beauty of it, right? It can work with in the call center case, in particular, it can work with Genesis, TalkDesk, like Avaya, you name it, anything,
Yeah.
because it's a virtual mic. So that's the second differentiator. And the third one is that like we always strive to have the best technology, he said, Chris, whether it's ours or someone else's, because it's a platform. Like we want to have the best technology. Now, when it comes to voice translation, we are actually I'm very surprised and very proud, like what like with the maturity and the quality of the technology that we have integrated inside our application, inside our product. So I'm very bullish on this use case, and then we are
Great.
super focused on call center use case right now for translation.
So, what type of metrics do your clients track when they deploy Crisp, right? So that they have a pain point, and in another podcast, we'll link it in the show notes. You beautifully explain that kind of that pain point, understanding how high of a pain point it is for a
Yeah,
customer. That's where you're going after, right? So, what type of key pain point do they have, and like what type of kind of KPIs, metrics do they use to then measure? Okay, we're now using Crisp, like XYZ got better.
I think like it's pretty standard for call centers, right? And if you're talking about call centers, it's pretty standard. So there is a average handling time. So for outsourcing call centers like BPOs, average handling time is very important. Like they want to optimize the amount of time like their agents spend in a call. So if you, let's say, deploy noise cancellation or accent conversion, then like number of the repetitions start to drop, right? Like can you please repeat that again? Like, and this actually have impact on this average handling time. Like that's one metric. CSAT is super important metric, right? So that's the satisfaction score for customers, and that so should go up. And the third one is like first call resolution. So like can you resolve the call from the first attempt? And that, so these are the three metrics that any call center sort of prioritizes. And if you can have positive impact on this, then the benefit is huge, right? The gains are huge. So
Let's talk a bit about the kind of the growth, your strategies for growth. I would assume you had kind of a product led mindset early on, but and you still have it, but it's a very competitive world out there. So you and now that you're very much B2B, you have to kind of have a more traditional sales led approach in the enterprise space. So how do you balance it? What do you do there? Like,
sure.
do you prioritize one over the other or not?
We have two products actually. One is call center, one is like more hybrid, like horizontal, like anyone can use our note taking app, right? It's pretty amazing. Like we have a lot of teams using our quiz meeting assistant. But the beauty is that like we have like different GTMs for these two products, but they help each other as well. Like so, we do a lot of consumer marketing. Let's say we do like a lot of SEO and influencer marketing, things like those. But when you do that, it also has like positive impact on the call center marketing. And then in the call center, we just came up from CCW in Vegas, which is the biggest event, right, for call contact centers. And that's a big event for us. Like we were like a major sponsor there. We have a major booth there, and and we do like a lot of thought leadership in the call center space. Um, and then so different GTMs, and also like working with BPOs. Um, BPO call centers is a big challenge for us as well. So it's actually like it's pretty complicated GTM, I would say. But when you when you find a way to like marry these different channels together, I think that it can do magic.
Yeah, we didn't spend much time talking about the note-taking component. Maybe you tell us a bit more about that, because it is a very different go-to-market also. And tell us a bit more about that, because you're getting all that data from the
Yeah.
voice, right? And then now you have the LLMs, and you can actually, productize it and make it useful for people.
Yeah, I mean it's very interesting like how we have evolved into these two different products. The history of it is very interesting. Like I had never had experience with call centers, right? So the first product we had as a company was noise canceling app, right? It was a simple app. It grew significantly during COVID. A lot of people started downloading. A lot of teams started using it, and then we got pulled into call center space because background noise is a big deal in call centers,
Yeah.
and we were like a software solution that would solve it. For which like otherwise you would need to have like hardware, like sort of a lot of hardware installations, and so on. So we got pulled into call centers and we started learning about them. And that's like sort of our products diverged. So now we have this call center specific product, which does noise cancellation, accent conversion, voice translation, like agent assist and other kind of things. And then we have the meeting assistant product that is designed for anyone, right? So like for like hybrid teams, small and large. And this product has noise cancellation. We recently added accent conversion to it as well, but the primary sort of focus is like transcription, call summaries, the key point generation, collaboration, like automatic action, action items, integration with Slack, HubSpot, Salesforce, and others. So we are very proud of the two products. Actually, both have grown like significantly, and they architecturally they're like very similar to each other,
Yeah.
but like very different audiences, different markets, and both are about voice productivity.
Not something you probably would have thought back in 2017, right? That in 2025, that was the product.
Yeah, I mean, like startups are like really interesting, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's impossible to predict how things are going to evolve, and there are multiple reasons why sort of we came to this point. But yeah, it turned out to be like really good decision to have both products.
But you got to start somewhere with a startup, and I think you're also running a small VC together with I think a friend or something, or an ex-colleague. I think I learned on that other
Yeah.
podcast. So if you have to start somewhere in 2025, given all the tech that's out there, what are you seeing? What are you looking at? What are you excited about in startups? Maybe we can narrow it down to kind of the language and SaaS space that's going on today.
It's an incredible time to actually start a company because like we are going through a huge transformation in the world, driven by AI and LLMs. And so like it probably couldn't be a better time, right? A lot of the industries are being rethought. Some will, and of course the incumbents are also very powerful, but like like startups, like timing wise, this is a good time for sure. So like I think like when you think about voice AI and voice AI agents are very hot topic, right? It's a very hot topic. So a lot of there are a lot of companies that take certain vertical problems that are traditionally very hard, have been very hard to solve without AI, and they involve voice, and they create agentic voice sort of solutions to solve these. Now there are problems in voice. It's not easy to do that, especially if the transactions are complex. But still, like there are a lot of simple transactions that people do with voice that you can automate, right? And these are so painful in terms of, you know, if there is no automation, they're very painful and they're expensive. So people are ready to pay for these. And there are a number of like great companies already in the space, but I think it's not too late.
Yeah.
I think there it's just like voice is so big, like communication is so big that if you're thinking of an idea, I think it's a great place to give a shot.
Got it. So you have a fair amount of features and capabilities on the platform already, but what's the roadmap for the rest of this year, maybe for 2026 for Krisp? Anything you can disclose?
Yeah, I mean, look, so accent conversion is a huge technology for us. I consider it to be solved in a sense that our research team just nailed it, and we know how to add more accent packs and stay like in top of the game, right? So there is a lot of demand for it, so we are very focused on it. In terms of like next thing, definitely voice translation is huge for us. We are in the I'm it has my personal attention, and I'm very pumped like with the experience we are observing from inside Krisp, right? For from especially for the call center use case. So that's like a big thing for us. But we also started adding like agent assist capabilities to our product, right? Which means like how can we help the agent to be more productive during the calls and after the call, but mostly like within the context of voice, right? Voice communication. So there are a lot of very cool things we are bringing to that part. There are some things I cannot talk about it, unfortunately, but a lot of focus on the call center. Like I'm very excited about it.
Got it. We'll stay tuned. David, thank you so much for joining today. That was great.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. This was great.